Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here. Welcome back to another video, guys. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys a quick and easy understandable tutorial on how to beat the Abomination, or in this case, the final boss of Back 4 Blood. Now, I just want to mention, before we do begin with the video, I just want to simply ask if you guys happen to enjoy, please end up dropping a like. I know that sounds a little bit dorky to end up asking for that right away, but I know a lot of you guys, once this tutorial's done, will be eager to fight the final boss, so I'm only just going to mention it once, just so that way you guys remember before you take off. But I would definitely appreciate it because it does help grow my channel, so I just want to say thank you in advance. Now, what I'm going to be doing, guys, we're going to be getting into the tutorial, just quick, easy, flat out, and we're just going to be just hopping straight into it, no BS. So here we go, and I hope you end up enjoying. So the way that the tutorial is going to be going, guys, I'm going to be going from the perspective of solo. You can use this strategy in multiplayer, but I want to do this from the perspective of if you were playing solo, and this is your very first time beating the game, which means that I'm going to be only showing you guys the default things that you can use. Because I could easily say, hey, I recommend this character, this gun, and this strategy, but you might be trying to do this for the first time, like I said, so you might not have these things. I want to make this as easy as possible, so I'm going to be doing this from the sake of the basic characters, the basic weapons, and everything, so everyone's going to have all these things unlocked. So it's not an issue of unlocks, just a matter of how you use them. So the very first thing that I want to recommend is going to end up being your character. Your character that I'm going to be recommending is going to be Evangelo. The reason why is because out of him and Holly and Mom and Walker, Evangelo has two things that makes this extremely easy. Number one, he ends up getting extra stamina compared to the other characters, which means that he can run significantly much faster whenever he's chasing the Abomination at the later stage in the boss fight. And two, as well, he has the ability to break out of pins. What do I mean by this? Basically, the ability of the stun gun he has built into his character. You can just end up hitting your hotkey, and you can end up breaking out of any tall boy or hawk or pin animation, and you are free. You don't have to worry about being close to your team so that way they can save you. If you want a lone wolf and you happen to get pinned, this is a scapegoat button, basically, and allows you to be able to end up getting through this no problem. The second thing that I want to recommend, and this is the part with the worms. I have to stress this because this is where me and a lot of others have messed up. If you are fighting the worms, try, before you go to the actual Abomination boss fight, to not let these worms damage you. Because the one thing that is a problem is going into the boss fight with trauma damage. Let me explain what that is. Trauma damage is irreversible damage that you end up taking to your character that you cannot heal. The only way that you can end up healing yourself from trauma damage is technically pain pills, and that's only temporary. Basically, the idea is when you're looking at your health bar, you will see the white part, which is going to be your actual health. Then you're going to end up seeing the red part, which is going to be the actual healing that you can give to your character. And the black part is going to be the irreversible damage to your character that you can't end up giving back. Now, I say this because people go into the boss fight because they want to end up completing the mission as soon as possible. They want to be able to get that ending. But people go into it recklessly. The worms, even though they are not quite the final boss yet, a lot of people, including myself, mess up on this a lot. They will let the worms smack them and giving them irreversible trauma damage, which basically means by the time they get to the legitimate boss fight, half their crew has half their health and they can't get it back otherwise. This is stupid. You can't go into the boss fight, no matter what the difficulty, with half your HP. It's foolish and it's unnecessary, and it can be easily avoided. The idea that what I recommend is this. When the worms are going to be your first boss here, right before the actual Abomination, distance yourself. If you see him going to swing, get the heck out of the way. When he does end up swinging, quickly from there, shoot his mouth and try to get as much damage as you can on him. And then when he's starting to back off and wiggle again, you can't hit him. Since you can't hit him anyways, just get out of the way. It's not worth trying to take the damage, trying to end up killing him as quickly as you can. It's not a speed run, it's not a race. Just take your time and make sure you kill them properly. If you really want to kill them easier, another way you can do it is grenades. Any sort of grenade or throwable, like a Molotov, especially a frag grenade, will destroy these worms really fast, especially if you hit them when their mouth is open. And once you do that, it's basically goodbye worm, and then you can move on to the next one. Now keep in mind also, every worm you destroy will summon a horde, which means that there is going to be a whole bunch of zombies on you. So I do not recommend killing the worms as soon as you can, because the zombie hordes are going to stack. To prevent the stacking, you want to kill a worm one at a time, then kill a horde, then kill another worm, and then repeat the process. Because if you kill too many things at once, you'll have too many enemies trying to take away your HP at once, and it's irreversible health, like I said. Now, the last thing I want to mention with these worms is that they spew acid everywhere. They basically, when they die, until you kill them all, will act kind of like acid, where if you walk into the puddle, you're automatically going to start losing health. It's not worth your time to try to be reckless, so just keep an eye out for where all the acid is and just don't end up losing your HP. With all that said and out of the way, what you want to now do is get all the ammo from the ammo crates above the ground as much as you can and just stack up on it. Bring as much ammo as you can down to the boss fight because it's going to be needed and it's not guaranteed that you'll have any. I also highly recommend having an unlimited ammo pistol if you have the card and also the means of getting a pistol, because when you eventually run out of ammo in your assault rifle, if you're desperate, you want to have that backup. Now, here we go on to the actual Abomination boss fight. The very first thing that I need to mention with this boss fight is that if you were going to be going to this boss fight, I highly recommend bringing an assault rifle. The reason why is because this is going to be allowing you to end up putting the most lead downstream for the most mobility. Because the LMGs are too slow and everything else ends up having either too little ammo or too little of reach. The assault rifle is going to be the best bang in your buck. You can use the M4, you can use the AK-47, you can use the Scar H, you can use really whatever assault rifle you want as long as it's an assault rifle. It doesn't have to be, but it's not worth it trying to be fancy with a shotgun. So that is why I recommend anything that is an assault rifle, and I also highly recommend having a laser and a scope because this allows you to be more accurate in hip fire and aim down sight scenarios. So when you are shooting the weak spots, you are completely accurate and you have zero worries about missing and wasting your ammo, because trust me, one of the worst things that happens in this boss fight is wasting ammo. You will always need to get ammo, because if you have no ammo by the time, especially when he's moving, you're screwed. Because you can't melee, and the pistols are not strong enough in the moving stage to warrant your use of that. So now we're going to be moving on to another tip that I have to mention, because this is especially where a lot of people mess up. When the tentacles are spawning in and he's trying to smack you, do not let them hit you. Because the thing is with these tentacles that these do a lot more damage than you may realize, because they corpse launch you and they smack you so hard that you get a lot of damage all at once, plus it flings you into other enemies, which means that this damage kind of is like a chain effect, and it stacks, which means that you're dying a lot sooner due to a combined attack. It's kind of like a Mortal Kombat combo. It's not the initial one singular move that screws you, it's all of them put together. It stacks and adds up over time, so don't let it happen to you. What I highly recommend is doing this very tip. One of the ways that you can know how to avoid the tentacles is that they always end up having a gap. The tentacles will never cover the entirety of the boss fight arena that you are working with. If you pay attention to them really closely, there is always some sort of gap that you can end up squeezing in between. If you can, ideally you'll notice the bigger gap where you can be in the middle, or you can end up being on the sides. However though, if you are really in a pinch and you can't exactly get out of the way of harm, like if there's zombies surrounding the area where you were intending to go to get out of the way of the tentacle, you can sort of fidget your way in between individual tentacles, even though you shouldn't, because A, it's risky and you can still get hit, and plus also B as well, you just are kind of trapped in a little 1x1 tunnel area and you really can't do anything about it at that point. The idea is that you want to ideally either go to the very direct left, the very direct right, or follow whatever like area of containment is the least crowded in between the tentacle slamming animation, and you will usually be safe. The best way I can describe it is that you will pretty much know what I'm saying when you visually see it for yourself. Now let's talk about the actual pods. The pods are going to be a matter of whether or not you end up having the most amount of ammo rather than the most amount of skill. Because it doesn't matter how skillful you are, if you don't have the ammo, you can't kill this thing. Because like I said, you can't melee it to death. So like I said, the idea is you want to have an unlimited ammo pistol if you're desperate, and just carry an assault rifle. And also, if you're playing this with solo, just take the bot's ammo, because they will give it to you and they're not going to pick it up anyway. So it's better to just not have that ammo go to waste. I would recommend going from left to right with the pods rather than just spraying on them, because this way you can kind of like keep track of which pod is the weakest. And when you know which one's the weakest, then you know which part of the map to move over. So for example, instead of trying to hit the pods diagonally in his mouth, just shoot the one pod on the right, like I said, and then go over to the left one, so that way you can always end up knowing where to go and you don't have to end up zigzagging in the middle of like a tentacle slam or something. This is the best way of going about it, so that way you're not trying to panic and then trying to get a last second clutch. That is one of my tips that I recommend for the standing still boss fights. Now we're going to be talking over here in just a second about how to end up doing the moving part of the boss fight, because that is also just as important. In fact, it's even harder. Regardless of the difficulty, this is the hardest step in the entire game. because you are limited to one thing and one thing only. Like I said, ammo. I cannot stress enough the ammo, because even though you can get unlimited pistol ammo, it's not worth trying to end up going and just leading with your pistol. I would highly recommend, if you have an opportunity to get the ammo from your bots, get the ammo from the crates, or just get ammo for any of your primary weapons somehow, because otherwise it's going to be a lot harder to end up killing the thing, because the pistols significantly are weaker. Now this is the important one. This is the biggest takeaway from all this advice. If I could say anything and you guys part ways with me now, this is the most important. You need to shoot his HP or his pod spore things in this order. Follow what I'm doing on the screen and you will do just fine. You want to go for, first of all, the pods on the right. Most people will either go on the left, or most people will wait for the thing to end up crawling forward a little bit. You want to shoot these little spore things as soon as you possibly can. You can go onto the right or the left, but I highly recommend the right because of the way that the pattern is of the exposed spots on this guy. Let me explain. The spores on the guy, or in this case the Abomination, are on the top of his back, the lower side of like what his stomach would be, under like his thigh / buttocks area, and then also I probably would say his like left shoulder. Now, I don't really know if this is truly the body parts I listed. I'm just guessing based off of what he looks like. But if you were to represent this in terms of a human, it's usually around that area. So 2 on the bottom, 1 on the left, 1 on the top is basically the best way I can put it. And that's the retrospective body parts I'm mostly referring to. The reason why I say go for the right ones first is because when you are following this thing, you'll eventually catch on to a pattern where the arena that you're running through, this little meat tunnel, basically there are certain spots where he completely covers a spore and there's nothing you can do about it. For example, going over here on the screen, like you can see, this spore that's on his left shoulder area is the easiest one to shoot because it's directly in front of me. It's, you know, completely exposed, no problem. I can hit it with ease. Trying to shoot the one I shot before from the right would be stupid because right now the ground is covering his right half of his spore and it's completely covered and I can't really get an angle on it. So it's better to shoot what is exposed rather than trying to shoot what's convenient. Because, like, for example, let's say you're used to doing this a certain way. Just because you're used to doing it a certain way, it doesn't mean you should. You really need to go for what spores are available to you at the given moment. If you can see it, shoot it. If you can shoot it, definitely shoot it. Because if you don't, you're going to be in the situation where the last spore that you need to get to, because I have this happen a lot myself, is covered, and by the time that it's exposed again, it's already in Fort Hope and it's too late. So this is what I would recommend. Shoot the right spore on his hip area first, then shoot his upper left shoulder, then shoot the lower left stomach area right near his hip / buttocks area, and then I would also end up recommending shooting his neck at the best case scenario, probably towards the beginning / middle, because I really did not find a best suitable time for it because it was kind of always exposed and I wasn't really focusing on it until the last second because I was trying to get the spores that were relatively hidden, because if I missed my chance, it was almost hard to end up bouncing back and getting those spots later. Because as you will see, as I'm going throughout this gameplay, certain spots end up giving you much ease of access to certain spores. You can get really close to certain ones, and you also can see some of them in plain open sight, versus some of the other ones which are either underneath of him, obscured by the actual meat wall we're going through, or just in bad spots where zombies spawn. And it's just not worth your time to try to go for a pattern recognition. It's better just to, like I said, go for the ones that are easy. This one's the worst of all. The one directly underneath of his stomach. This one is completely covered almost 99.9% of the time. You can only either get this thing at the beginning, the middle part right here, because he's climbing and he's not exactly rubbing his stomach. He's actually using the side ledges to try to perch himself upward and not fall into that gaping hole that's in the middle at one point. So this leaves it exposed, and there is a good chance you can get a lot right here. And then lastly is going to end up being the ending, because anything else in between, it just hides like what you're seeing on screen. He ends up trying to crawl, and you literally cannot see it. There's nothing you can do about it until it ends up exposing itself again. So what I just highly recommend is just be fast, be efficient with your ammo, keep your teammates alive, because even if you have to, like, let's say, inconveniently lose your HP or your ammo trying to save your teammates, it's still better than having no teammates. If your bots die or your teammates die, revive them if you can, because they'll guard you while you're trying to shoot the Abomination. And last tip I can give you, and this is just an easy one, but it's something that happens to everyone all the time. don't let the Abomination crush you trying to shoot his spores. I got very cocky at points and tried to go underneath of him to try to end up grabbing his spores. And the problem was, though, is that when I tried to get his spores, he would swing his tail and crush me, and it would automatically kill me, which would leave me in a situation where I would have to reset the entire game. What you just saw, by the way, was my failed gameplay attempt of me going after this thing when I didn't know what I was doing. The reason why I showed you this, and you might be confused on why I'm putting this in a tutorial, being like, John, why the heck are you putting a failed attempt in a tutorial? That makes no sense. Actually, it does. Because I want to show you guys that if you don't do what I tell you in this video, that's exactly what's going to happen to you, because it happened to me. I'm not making this stuff up because I'm showing you from real life examples. Now what I'm going to be showing you is I'm going to be showing you a successful attempt where I got this extremely quickly. This is not world record status, but it is close, because the reason why is because I looked this up. I was curious. I killed the Abomination extremely quick here. In fact, you're about to see him. I'm about to kill him in just a little over a minute here at around 1 minute and 17 seconds. And the reason why I got this a lot faster than my previous run and why it's super close to a world record is because I did the exact following tips that I'm preaching here in this video. There's one single video I can find on YouTube about an Abomination finale speedrun, and the guy ended up getting it in like 1 minute and 59 seconds left out of the 5 minutes, and I was pretty damn close, I'd say. So I'm not trying to say I got world record status or at all, like I said. I'm just trying to show you guys a point of reference about how you can end up having a bad run versus a good run and vice versa. So to conclude this video, because this video is already about to be almost 20 minutes, but I didn't want to leave out any details, the thing that I will part my video here with you guys here today is this. The last thing that I can recommend, above all, end all, is when you do this, just have patience, and ideally, if you can, get teammates. Because even though the bots in Back 4 Blood are a lot better than they were in the beta and the alpha, they're still bots and they are prone to error, and they have that Left 4 Dead, like, you know, dorkiness about them that will make it where they can occasionally fail and inconvenience you. And it's just not worth it trying to just debate with a computer that's not going to listen versus a teammate that you can give a call out to. And just make sure that you just don't end up raging and getting pissed off, because that's the worst thing you can do. I've done this myself, and I know we all have moments, but the idea is don't dread on it, don't get sucked into it. If you rage, don't also beat yourself up either. If you rage, just let it go and move on. If you have to, take a break. I say this the most is because this is the thing that ends up ruining a lot of like speed runs and YouTube videos, and it's just not worth getting salty about. You will beat this eventually, because it took me about 2 or 3 hours the initial first time I bought the Back 4 Blood and tried to beat this game. Well, not really. It's more like an hour and a half, but it felt like 2 or 3 hours. And I just want to let you guys know that at the end of the day, it's just all about having fun. So even though this got a little bit ranty towards the end, this is my honest, can't fake it speedrun / advice that I can give you guys on how you can end up being the finale, or in this case, the Abomination in Back 4 Blood. And I hope you guys end up enjoying today's video. So if you enjoyed today's video, guys, please end up dropping a like. I would definitely very much appreciate it. And also subscribe if you guys are new around here to keep up to date with all my Back 4 Blood videos. If you would like to financially support the channel, I would definitely appreciate if you guys could go check out my Patreon. It's always linked down below in all my YouTube video descriptions. Or you guys can use supporter creator code BlackNinja797 in all caps in the Fortnite Epic Games item shops, because that is very much appreciated, because Epic sponsored today's video. So shout out to Epic. And yeah, guys, I hope you end up enjoying another YouTube video from the most unique YouTuber you guys are ever going to see. Thank you for watching, guys, and peace out.
Hey, meme lords, Jesus here, and you better have enjoyed that video there by the eternal god Daddy Ninja. You should probably subscribe too, or the mighty Moab will come for your balls. If you enjoyed the video, you might like it too, and give me the memes. Flash, bang, boom!